Well, guys, I want to change it up just a bit. Talk about some of the most amazing stories that we've had as a group in some of the areas that we've been to.
Oh, yeah, especially the one at Hanabi.
Right?
Yeah. Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
That's the first time I've heard one yell that close.
Yeah.
You want to go ahead, Barry?
It kind of started the night before. I'd taken a friend's, it was an oil field trailer converted to an RV. I didn't want to take my RV into that pasture. So I get back in there, get parked, and, we were sitting around talking that evening and went to bed about midnight. And I was laying there and I thought, I heard a whoop at a distance. And so I kind of dozed off to sleep. About an hour later, my trailer rocks. I mean, this trailer is heavy. I tried to rock it the next morning. I couldn't move it. It's extremely heavy. And so I looked around for prints and couldn't find any. And Chuck hollers at me. He said, "Why did you leave your pickup door open?" I said, "I didn't." I looked up the door, and the driver's side door was wide open. And I knew I shut it. I mean, I knew I'd shut it. I walked up there kind of to see what was going on, and I looked into the seat, and there was, on the way down, I'd had a Subway sandwich and a Sonic hamburger, and I didn't finish either one of them. But the sacks were open, and they had been eaten, and they'd gotten in chips. And I got to looking on the console, and there were these huge fingerprints. Most of the finger, they were oily, and they were imprinted on the console. And while I was looking at that, Chuck Holler said, "Look at your driver's side window." It was extremely heavy dew because everything was just soaked. But I couldn't even see out the front window. It was so wet. And when I looked at that window, it was like a face was staring back at me. It was just a rounded shape of a face. And like he got close enough, you could see where, the nose and imprinted and a little bit of a cheek. And we went around on the other side of the pickup.
Barry.
Yeah.
He probably wasn't used to glass, and he ended up bumping his face right on it.
Yeah.
And that's why you got your imprint.
Yep. And he got him a snack. But somebody said that it was probably somebody looking for drugs. I said, if anyone looked drugs, I had a $1,000 camera. I had 2 pistols laying there. My billfold was laying there. And I said, they would have got those. So we knew what it was. Let's see. I think it was the next night we went west of Honabi.
Yep.
And we stopped up on that hill. I don't know what we were 6-7 miles over there.
Yeah, I think so.
It's a little narrow road, and I had my thermal. And we got out and we were listening. It was real calm, quiet night. And I started picking up something in the road about an eighth to a quarter mile away from us.
I remember that.
And it was just staying in the road. And then a couple of guys walked down towards it. And while they were walking down towards it, all of a sudden, to our left, I hear a quail. And one of the guys there said, "Well, it's just a quail." I said, "When have you heard a quail at 1 a.m?"
Yeah.
They're not going to give away
exactly
the position.
Right.
Yeah.
And
You don't hear that.
no. And that wasn't far from us. It was pretty close. And about that time, the guys started getting close to that heat signature. And the closer they got, it moved off into the ditch and then kind of in the brush. And they came back. Well, it moved back into the road. Oh, and
they said that they didn't see anything.
Yeah, they didn't see a thing. And was it you, Chuck, on the 4-wheeler when we left?
Yeah, I was on. I think there were a couple of us that had 4-wheelers. But I
Well,
had
then you,
one, and I remember going up toward the mountain that night, and I was the last one to come through there, and I could swear there was one standing on the freaking road right in front of me
yeah,
as I drove past there.
yeah. That's what I was thinking. You saw that one,
Yeah,
and then later, the next day evening, we were
yeah. The next night,
all sitting out there around the fire and talking and just visiting.
Yeah.
yep.
And take it from there, Chuck. That's your deal.
Well, I knew that where we were, that there had been several sightings in that area, and
Yeah.
it's not far from the creek. And I had bought a night vision video camera that I had brought with me, brand new. I'd never really used it, didn't really know much about it. I think my tent was probably 30 or 40 yards from the fire, if that.
Yeah.
And I went over to my tent because that's where I had all my stuff, and I got that camera out. Well, I was snapping some pictures and some video, and didn't really know what I was actually shooting at. I was just trying to figure out how this thing worked. And unbeknownst to me, I didn't know until I got home and started looking at the footage that I'd actually captured one. But
Yep.
before I knew all that particular night, I decided that I was going to make a call out in front of my tent. Because, like I said, I knew that there had been sightings in that area. And I thought, you know what? I think I'm just going to make a call. And I made what to me sounded like a female scream. And
Yep.
instantly, I got a response.
Mm-hmm.
Oh boy, did you? Wow.
And I ran back to the fire where you guys were. I said, y'all hear that? And so I don't know who said it, but somebody said, well, we thought that was you. And I said, well, I made the first call, but I didn't make the second call.
You come running back saying, guys, that wasn't me. That wasn't me.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean,
That's right.
that was loud.
Yeah.
Boy,
Yeah.
that was loud.
And
Let
then,
me take over now.
okay.
Because Chuck, I mean, the other guy was 6'2".
Yeah.
Barry is 6'3".
Yep.
We all went, they all headed over toward where that sound came from because we thought we saw something. I said, I saw his eye over there. So when I was peering behind a tree, what we didn't know until it was too late, while you were sitting ready to do that, he said, look, Rick, and there was a bunch of deer coming down that creek. Well, that Bigfoot was getting ready to ambush that deer. And then when you let that hoop out, he was not a happy camper.
No,
The deer
he wasn't.
whirled and went the other way. Well, Barry's over here to the right, and over to the left is so they're 6'2" and 6'3". When this thing jumped up, they looked like little kids. I'm 10, 11, 12-year-old kids. When he jumped up and went, boom, he was gone. I was 30 to 35 yards from him. And
Yeah.
Barry was closer.
Yeah. Didn't
We
you,
were
didn't
way
you pick,
closer.
Barry, didn't you pick up a heat signature that night?
Yeah.
Where
Yeah,
he had laid
I had
down
a
in
heat
the
signature.
grass?
Yeah. And I could see something, but it wasn't as hot as it should be. But I think it's because everything was so wet, it cooled him off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because when he jumped up, the heat signature was back.
Yeah.
And he took
He
off
sure
running.
made you look
and
small.
he took off running, and of course I followed him, but we wasn't about to catch him. And we ran up to it wasn't a pond, but it was a big pool of water.
Yeah.
And
That's
it
where
was probably,
I think that's where the creek flows through, doesn't it?
yeah. And it's 20, 30 feet wide through there. And I stopped, said, did you hear him go through that water? He said, no, he must have jumped it. But he made no sound of
No,
going through
we didn't
water.
hear him running either. Nobody could.
No.
Didn't hear a sound. And there was
Yeah.
brush
We were
there that he could have been
Yeah.
stepping on.
Yeah. But that
Well, I remember-
right there was water.
I remember we were all sitting around the chain link fence or looking out the chain link fence that he had in front of his yard. and his wife started jumping up and down and said, I see one, I see one. And that was the one that you guys followed, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was.
he jumped up. Yeah, yeah. She like ripped my arm off, squeezed it, scared her to death. We were when Barry and I had gone down there before the first time. Now it's the second time again. We parked up on that rocky place. We went there a day early or something. We parked. Yeah. You step out and go 3 foot and you're down 150-foot ravine down through there. Well, the trees will catch you, but there's trees and everything all down through that. But it's deep. We got there the first night. And old Barry, he went to sleep, but I'm a night owl, so I'm up a little bit. I was probably up an hour or so. Finally, I thought I better lay down. He'll be up early, and I need to get to sleep too, and be up. So I'm laying there. All of a sudden, the trailer is rocking. And how long is your trailer?
It's 40 foot.
40 foot.
It's a 40 foot.
This is a 40-foot fifth wheel. And it starts to rock. I get up, run upstairs where he's at in his bedroom. I said, Barry, and he had a little window on his slide out that he could look down inside the trailer. I said, look out there. The trailer's rocking. He said, you look out. I said, well, I don't want to go face to face with a Bigfoot. He didn't either. I said, you look. So, I thought, good grief.
Not happening.
Open up there, and I'm right there looking at me. I said, So he wouldn't look. So then it started rocking again. And get this, it wasn't rocking from side to side. It was rocking
front and back.
Yes.
And that's
he grabbed hold of that bumper, was pushing it. He was pushing on that bumper. Because if he'd have pushed on the deal, it'd probably pushed right in, come in there and said, tickle me. Or I was right there.
That trailer's sitting on 6 hydraulic jacks, too.
Yeah. Then I hear just real short like that. And it quit. And they walked away. Well, we tried looking for tracks, but there was big old rocks, so big. I mean, it hurt even on your tennis shoes almost walking. I don't know how they do it barefooted, but you couldn't see any tracks. They were pushing the dirt around, and there's too many rocks. But I wish I'd have looked back and looked at it, but tell me I wouldn't do it. I didn't want to be face to face with him.
Yeah.
But
well, I'd like for you guys to tell one more story, if you would, of what happened to us down at Brown Springs.
Oh, it'll have to be Barry. I wasn't on that trip.
No, I thought you were.
No, Rick didn't make that one.
Oh, okay. Sorry, Rick.
That's all right. Yeah, I'm sorry too because I didn't make it.
There was so much happened on that.
Yeah, there was.
From the first few minutes we were there.
And losing my recorders, my audio recorders.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, all disappeared. But when we got there, we didn't know most of them. And we were introducing each other and everybody was talking. And down there on that river, the cicadas were just nuts. I mean, you couldn't hardly hear for, cicadas being so loud. And all of a sudden, everything went dead quiet. There was one south of the river you could hear, and that was it. And
is that when we were sitting by the fire?
No, we just got there. It was still daylight.
Oh, okay.
And I said, guys, listen, we're not alone. And nobody's paying attention to me. And I hollered at you. You were on the other side. I said, Chuck, and I pointed towards my ear. And when you saw that, your eyes got big and you shut them up. Said, guys, we're not alone.
Yeah.
And they were all, of course, a lot of them were city guys and they didn't understand. And we were sitting, we'd all, been talking. It's about 30 minutes later, we sit down and there was a lot of Johnson grass down in there. And I was looking through, visiting with, I forgot who I was visiting with. But anyway, I was looking through the Johnson grass and all of a sudden I saw it moving deep in there. And then I saw brown movement and I could see the hair like an arm. And I told, I said, there goes one right here. he's not 30 feet from it. Well, it wasn't that far. It's 20 feet. And he said, oh, it's probably shadows. I said, it's moving and it's brown. And then somebody hollered, there's a squatch. And he said, well, I guess you're right. And it was after that, we decided to, well, you went and put your recorders up.
Yeah.
And then we went as a group walking through. And so we got to notice we'd hear, little tree twig snaps, the branch, small ones snapping, and it'd be different directions. And then we heard rock clack. And then when we got in so far, we turned around to come back. And I think it was me and we're in the back, bringing up the rear. And behind us, as soon as we turned and we changed directions, I hear this go, rock. And I looked at Barry and I said, did you hear that? And he said, yeah. I said, what did you hear? And he said, rock. And then I hollered, Shaw. I said, there's two behind us. And of course, we knew there was, some day watchers watch us through that whole deal. But that was interesting to hear it say, rock.
Yeah. Was that the same night that we found the structure?
That was, no, that was the next day when we moved over to the other one. But we went down to Brown Springs, and you were getting eye shine down there. We had one watching us down at the cemeteries.
Yeah.
And then that night's what was pretty active.
Yeah.
We did find that structure over there, and looked at trees. Those huge trees looked like a playground for little ones.
Yeah.
Like a jungle gym. And they had that structure that we all came in on, which was pretty scary.
Yeah, it was.
Because if you took a picture of that structure and you saw some eye shine in it.
Yeah. And then you got your thermal out, didn't you?
Yeah. Yeah, you hollered at me and said, turn your thermal on there. Well, when I did, there was a heat signature there. And he turned just right. And I thought, that looks like a heartbeat. And that's when I called y'all over to look at it. And it looked just like a heartbeat. It was hotter and it was like a heartbeat. And we had to move around in there and scared. And we knew there was a couple watching us.
Yeah, because they were snapping trees and stomping.
Yeah. And, I think I heard one whistle. I think I remember a whistle.
Yeah.
But anyway, we radioed them and they come back, and Larry got up high because we were all packing, which is another story. Didn't like guns down there because he said they'd keep them away. And that's when I made the statement very loud. We didn't carry the guns in here for them. We carried it in for the mountain lions and the hogs.
Right.
And it didn't change our activity. We had lots of it.
Yeah, we did.
And anyway, got up pretty high and was coming down the high side to it. And it kept moving around in there. And all of a sudden, it kind of went to the back side and just got small and then just disappeared. And I really think there was a hole there for it to escape out of. But that's kind of what badgers do. They'll go back in the hole and then push the dirt in front of them.
See, I think that's what said he saw when he went up top. He thought he saw it going into a hole and then covering the hole back up.
That's right. And that's what I was saying on the thermal.
Yeah. Because after it did that, you didn't have no signature on your thermal.
No, it was gone. Everything was cool after that. No heat signature at all.
And then the night that, I guess it was that same night after it got dark is when we built the campfire there and we was all sitting around the chairs.
Yes. Yeah, that's where I had a couple of acorns thrown at me too there. And you and I both had a feeling they were there
Yeah.
when the acorns started flying in. And then we heard something. So I got my thermal and stood
Well,
up.
wasn't sitting there talking, and we were all just kind of sitting there listening, and we saw something run past Larry,
Yes.
and
Yes.
looked at us a few minutes later and said, "Did something run behind me just a minute ago?" And we were just kind of looking at you like we were in shock.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like it's like a juvenile. It was like
Yeah.
a juvenile had run past them.
Yeah. Oh, that's when I got my thermal out
Yeah.
and I found those two down by the tree stump and the log that was laying over.
Yep.
And went to the right of it and then kind of moved back towards it. And the closer they got to it, they started backing off. Both of them started backing off into the brush away from them.
Yeah.
And they stopped because we were telling them where to go.
Yeah.
And they stopped. And then they turned and came back to camp. And as they were coming back to camp, they followed them back up to that stump and log.
Yeah. That was a crazy night.
Yeah, well, even after later when we went walking, we walked down towards where we saw that structure and then cut back north up on the hill. And we found that hickory that had been broke off at about 3 or 4 feet high. And y'all were inspecting it for, bugs or lightning or weather damage. And there wasn't anything. It was just had been broke over. And it was about 12 inches thick.
Yeah.
Something like that. But while y'all were doing that, I had the thermal out because we knew we had some problems. And then I finally got them. There was 4 in I don't know if it's plum ticket, because I got their eyes. I saw their eyes and I got the heat signature. And UND came over and was looking at that. There was one on each side and two kind of in the middle.
Yeah.
And then y'all decided to go on. Well, I stood there for a little bit to see what they were going to do. And then all of a sudden they backed off into the brush. And then that's when I caught up with y'all pretty quick.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to mess around there by myself.
Well, that very next day
Ain't no
was
Superman.
Nope.
Yeah.
Nope.
That very next day we found something on the Texas side of the river too.
Yes. Yes. Big stuff. That one huge igloo looking thing, all out of brush. That was big. I could walk in there, but I have to bend over. And I got a little bit of that video on my GoPro. And but I don't know how far across was that thing.
It was pretty big. I'd say 7 or 8 feet, maybe. Or you
At
think
least.
it's more than that?
I was thinking 10.
All I know is all I remember is when we walked up on it. We couldn't see it until we were right on top of it.
Yeah, it was well hid.
Wow.
And those cottonwood trees, you remember those?
Yes, broke off at 10 and 12 feet.
Yeah, crazy.
And cottonwoods don't break there. They either break the very top of the branches or the whole thing comes over.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there was, 6, 7, 8 of those?
Oh, yeah. I still got pictures of those cottonwood trees. I took pictures of them.
Yeah. And we'd heard that there was a huge one down there somewhere.
And I don't know, Chuck, this may have been you. I don't remember, but they were talking about the Brand Springs area. And it's eerie and it feels threatening. Have y'all noticed anything like that?
Well,
around the cemetery you did, didn't you?
Yeah, it was kind of creepy feeling. Yes, at the cemetery. But that first night we were there, we were around the campfire about 11 o'clock one night. You know, it's down there where hardly any traffic. Just rarely hear cars go by. And it's about 11 o'clock and dead quiet. And all of a sudden we hear, the best way I can describe it was a witch's cackle. And it was loud. Everybody heard it. And then was it you, Chuck, that heard it again when y'all went up to the pickup?
No, I never. I heard it the first time, and I kept thinking to myself, "Well, I got an audio recorder right up there where the cemetery is. I'm gonna get some good audio."
Yeah.
And what'd you hear?
It was like a witch's cackle.
Yeah, and I think
Okay.
Loud.
I was wanting to go to Brown Springs, but nah, I'm done.
I think
I'm not going to Brown Springs then.
I think
Forget that.
I think somebody else actually walked up to the road because they thought somebody was up there on the road in a car or something.
Oh, yeah.
And when they got
Yeah.
up there,
What does it sound like?
there was no tire tracks anywhere.
Just a witch's cackle. That last they make.
Oh. Oh.
And the crazy thing about that was that when I went to get that last recorder because I couldn't find my other four, I found that recorder up there at the cemetery. You know, I thought I was going to get some really good audio out of that cry, and because I had one recorder, that was the only recorder I found was the one that I had put out there on the cemetery. And when I got it, you can hear me turn the button on, and you can hear us all talking as we're walking back down out of there. And about 2 or 3 minutes after we get out of there, the recorder stops.
Oh,
I didn't get any recording off of that other than us walking through there.
wow.
Huh.
And that would have been that would have been some really good audio.
Yeah, yeah. Shoot.
That's not good.
Something to go along with the Bigfoot stuff. Since people know I talk about them, I've had 17 local people come to me, tell me their stories here locally.
Really?
And it's just continuing to be more and more.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
just,
What
Well,
type of encounters are they having?
most of them have been crossing the road.
Yeah.
That's in across the road. It's been a lot of that. Some have been out feeding horses and pulled up to the gate. There's one behind a tree watching them.
Right over
One,
right
yes, just about 2 miles from me. And that one was in town. One's Spencer town. He said he woke up one morning about 2 o'clock and heard something out back of the house. He said it was cool outside, so I had my windows open. And he said I walked over the window and looked, and in the alley, the dumpster, he said there was something bent over in it. So he was watching it because he couldn't figure out what it was, and all of a sudden it stood up. He said it was big and it was black and it was hairy. He said, he asked me, would they come into town? I said, oh yeah, they'll come in and look in the dumpsters, and said it's easy meals for them.
Yeah, we know that for a fact.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ponca City.
I was
Yeah.
I was a lady. So 20 years ago, she's 17, I think it was. And her and her mom was taking her dad. He worked on a rig and he couldn't leave the rig. And they were bringing him some food and some clothes. And it was dark. And she turned the corner on this dirt road and it's down a low spot and trees everywhere. She turned the corner and she went, oh. And so she just kept on going. So when she got up to the rig, she sat there and stopped and she asked her mom, said, did you see that back there? She says, you mean the Bigfoot that was looking at us around the tree? Yeah, I saw him. I'm going, I would have never thought this lady would ever say anything about it. But I told her that I did that. I started that. And I told her about Barry doing it, and he got me started. And she's had that. And you will never believe the people that they want to tell it, but they're afraid people are going to make fun of them,
Yep.
and harass them about it. I've been back toward Barry's house, and I looked down there, and it was kind of a little bit of a sunny day, and I'm looking, I'm going, wow. They were standing on looked like a piece of pavement or something down there, or a concrete of an old bridge or something down there, and they were in the sunlight. I'm going, wow. Didn't think about them being Bigfoot standing down there, you know.
Oh yeah, I think
Remember that place? The place that we couldn't go down, if they had it blocked off, that was it. And I looked over and I'm going, wait a minute. I'm driving toward Barry's house. I'm going, there's no cars parked there. How would that be people? And one kind of hunkered down on like almost toward one of the ends, turned around like a, like a fighter would be, a wrestler, kind of hunkered down and looked back at me. The more I think about it, the more I think it was two juvenile Bigfoot standing in that deal looking at me down there, because they were just in the sunlight, but they were solid black. Everything was black about them. There was no color but black.
Is that on the west side of the lake?
On the north side.
It's on the north side of the lake.
Okay.
Yeah, that spot Rick's talking.
It's way north. In fact, there's houses all around it, but it's thick trees and woods that
Goes right to the
blocked
lake.
off. Yeah, so nobody can go down in there. But they let people walk in there, but you can't drive in there anymore. And there's thick trees down in there too, quite a bit.
Yeah.
So I do want to ask, both of you have been really close to these things. Barry, yours outside the barn, Rick in the binoculars, the tree peeker, and when you thought the one was a bullberry.
Yeah.
What did they look like?
Well, the one that the first one I saw, he had kind of a conical peaked head, because all I could see was part of his head and his shoulders. I thought it was the butt of a bull with a tail head. But he was just so massive. The arms and shoulders just incredibly large.
Yeah.
And that's about the biggest thing I can say. It was just huge and quick.
Yeah.
I've seen them running, and they're very, very, very quick.
Did it have more ape features or more human?
The first one, it was more like ape looking.
I think they vary.
Yeah,
They
vary all
vary.
kinds, but
Yeah.
yeah. But most of them I've seen where I could see the face good, it was more ape-like.
Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of sketches of Bill has done that, they look a lot of human to them.
Yeah.
That one we saw walking, or I saw walking, broad daylight.
Yeah.
30, 97 degrees. Here's walking right toward us. Out there, we were riding on the pickup. Remember that, Barry? Barry saw it again, but I saw it walking upright. There was two things went through my mind. What idiot is out here in a tuxedo, because he's black and white, or a penguin outfit? Then I went, Bigfoot? Oh, yeah. And I started yelling Bigfoot, because I thought it was a joke, I mean, who's going to be walking out in the middle of nowhere, and there was hardly any trees around, and there he was, walking right toward us, and he wasn't 100 to 150 yards away from us, in little 3-inch grass. So he was, and then you saw him hiding behind the stuff, looking at us, he was doing push-ups.
He was
behind these plum bushes,
Yeah, they did push-ups
So
to
Barry
look
got to
at
see
us
too.
and then drop down. Yeah.
Yeah. And he was gray, he was blackish and white looking, what he was.
Yeah.
And he if anybody would have seen that, they would not have thought it was real. But he scooted and mooted and got out and went over and hid. And as we was going by him, I looked straight. He was northeast of us when I first saw him. And then I looked straight east down through the trees. There was an opening, and he was hunkered down like he'd get ready to jump, looking at us. And his face looked ape looking too. I think the white hair made his cheeks look real big, because the white was coming out on each side of it. And then he had black on kind of his head around on his shoulders and white on his stomach, and then black around it. He looked completely different than anything I'd ever seen
Wow.
of all that I've seen. He looked different.
What do you think they are?
Well, let me tell you what I'd call him. If I was getting into a fight and he's on my side, I'd call him brother. I would want him on my side. Believe me. I mean, these boys are so big, they're so strong. He'd be big brother to me. But these guys, they're very intelligent
Mm-hmm.
from what little I have seen, and I've heard other stories about things that people have happened, and because of their intelligence, some people think that people are pulling jokes on them. They don't think a creature should be doing the things they're doing. Say, they're very intelligent. Where they come from, I have no clue. I've heard of different stories that people have come up with, but as far as I'm concerned, they're stories. I don't know. I don't have a clue. Don't have an idea. But like I said, they're extremely smart. They are extremely strong. And then I've heard cases where they helped people in the past. You remember that one that I think you said me, Chuck, about the guy?
Yes.
Remember that one?
Yes, sir.
I mean, they helped the grandpa out, his grandfather, and everything. So, I mean, they're intelligent, and they're just like a human as far as I'm concerned. We got good ones and we got bad ones. And there's some bad people out there that'll kill people, But they always, when there's an animal out here or a creature like that, and one of them goes bad, they think they're all bad.
Yeah.
They don't stand a chance, and it's not right. Don't judge humans because of one bad one. Well, we shouldn't judge those animals because one bad one either. Yeah, I'll take the precaution, sure, but you don't necessarily have to judge them.
Yeah.
I'll never forget. I went when I was with Barry out there, and he got that word Oganali, Lisan Oganali. Lisan is the Cheyenne for that Lisan, but I always said Oganali, and I was out there a lot of times, and I'd put my hand up and say Oganali, wait, Oganali. At first, I felt kind of stupid, kind of silly, but I thought, oh well, Barry's here, he knows I am anyway, so it doesn't matter, So I just say that and go on with it, and stuff. And I said it. Well, one night I'm sitting in my house. I've lived here this July or August. My son was born in May, 38 years ago. So I've been here coming up on 38 years. Never in my life have I ever heard an owl hoot. Here. One night I watched the TV, and I hate the commercial side. I muted it. It was 11:50. I'll never forget. All of a sudden, I hear the sickest owl hoot I ever heard in my life. And it did it 4 times. I'm going, that was not an owl. I peeked outside and looked. I opened my door. I didn't turn my light on. And I stepped out on the porch, and I'm looking around it, see if anybody's around there, see if I could see anything moving. I even went down all the alleys around to see if I could see any smudge marks on any of the dumpsters or whatever. But I thought that was somebody. But what amazed me was the fact that approximately 2 weeks or a week or so, something like that, 10 days after I'm at Barry's saying Oganali, then I'd tap my chest and say Oganali and hold my hand up again. And I was trying to tell him I'm a friend. The hoot owl showed up.
Mm.
Maybe it was just a coincidence. I don't know. But if it was them, wouldn't you say that's pretty intelligent for them to follow and find me at my house and then stand back away and do 4 hoots? Why 4? But anyway, I think they're very intelligent. Am I going to be cautious? Oh yeah. Am I going to have a gun with me? Oh yeah. And like go in for the hogs and and stuff like that, and the mountain lions. If there's some in that area, you need that for your protection. And you may come across a rogue one maybe got rabid bit by a skunk or ate something that was rabid. We don't know. And caused it to go maim. Well, you need protection for something. You don't necessarily have to use it, you know, but there's times you may need it.
Better to have it, not need it, not have it.
Exactly. And I want to thank y'all. I appreciate this. I really do. I'm honored you asked me to be on here, and I want to thank you for having me on there.
Aww.
I really appreciate it. Really am.
Means a lot that you're here. So
I appreciate it more than you'll ever know, probably.
Aw.
I might take that back about Chuck. I mean, Chuck. How he kind of has to read between the lines on that deal. But anyway, as we were saying,
I was just fixing to say how much I respect you guys.
how much what?
How much I respect you guys. I was just fixing to say that until you made that comment.
Well, I guess he respects you, Barry.
In all honesty, you guys have a lot of respect from me. That's for sure.
Well,
Well,
I
thank you,
respect you
Chuck.
too, so you don't think so, and I appreciate it. Thanks a lot. Means a lot. Oh,
Yeah.
so I want to get us a trip out here, guys, if we can. All right, y'all
Do
get
it.
Yes, sir.
Do it. You have
All
been
right.
tasked.
We'll see if we can't get going out here and everything. So I asked Barry, and he said, "Well," I said, "I know. It depends on whether you gotta run or not.
Okay, Barry, are you on 24 hours every day?
I get one weekend off a month.
Oh, that's the weekend.
Ah,
That's the weekend where
Barry, he gets about one weekend off about every 5 or 6 weeks. It's not every month.
It's supposed to be.
Yeah.
My kids are slave drivers.
Payback's bitch.
Yeah.
That's called payback, Barry.
What category would you put them in? Because I don't know. I'm all over the place.
Well, I kind of am, but the things I look at is what they're possible of. You see the ape genetics,
Mm-hmm.
and some of them you don't. But one thing that really stands out to me is apes don't have vocal cords where they can speak, and these things can mimic us very, very close. I mean, you
I'm
sound
gonna
like
tell
somebody
that
you
one,
know.
yeah.
See, that's why
Yeah,
sometimes I'm total Gigantopithecus blackie. Like I'm totally in on that. I don't know necessarily if it's Gigantopithecus, but on that side of the aisle. And then other times I'm like, they're mimicking.
Yes,
So I'm like,
they mimic.
yeah,
And it's, so many people have swore they was somebody else they knew that was talking and it wasn't even them. They
yeah,
weren't even there.
yeah.
That one that was swinging to the trees, if you saw it, you'd
Yeah.
swear it was a chimpanzee.
Isn't
Yeah.
that crazy? I believe that there's different types, but what are they? I don't know. I
Yeah.
can't.
Well, have you seen the DNA research that Melba?
What did
No, but
say?
catch 'em.
Yeah, she was talking about the DNA. We're very thorough at it. That she got it down to the male was ape, and at some point the female was a human.
Oh,
And
Really?
there was something else mixed in with it. I'd like to listen to that again. But
when
she's
where
done
was
it.
this?
Excuse me?
Has she been studying more about it?
Oh, she's got a lot of research on it.
Huh.
And she really, and she doesn't just do it halfway. I mean, goes farther than she needs to as far as filtering and make sure there's no contamination.
Yeah. That
She's-
poor lady
she's-
got pulled to the ringer, man.
Yes, she has. But, there's so many theories out there. But one thing I know is, they've got vocal cords to be able to do what they do. So
Yeah.
that's a human trait.
Yeah. The last show, Mike, he said that that this one he believed it to be a male rogue, maybe a juvenile, maybe not. Said that it would always come around or interact whenever he wasn't around. But his wife heard, "Hey, And I asked him, did she say it sounded like him? The first one was real low, almost like a whisper.
Oh,
Second one was louder, and they're mimicking. It's just crazy.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, nobody's ever come close to sounding like my grandson.
Yeah.
When he says, hey, hey. And it's a deep gruntle kind of, it's hard to describe, but I mean, I'd recognize it. And like you said, I swore that was my grandson doing that.
That means they've been
Sounded
around.
just like, pardon me?
That means they've been around to hear your grandson do that.
Yep.
Exactly. They've been around. They've been through there to listen, and stuff like that. They had to have
Yeah.
to hear him say that. Because he's always, hey, instead of saying Baba or Grandpa or something, he'll go, hey, and he's always done that. And I love it because that's a little trait that I distinguished to him,
Mm-hmm.
But, and he was my first grandchild. He says it to that, but I heard it and I whirled around because I thought he was behind me.
Mm.
And it was unbelievable. It sounded just like him,
Yeah.
And see, Barry, haven't you ever been out into the woods and swore you heard somebody talking
Yeah.
or saying things?
Oh, yeah.
I have,
Yeah.
and then never see anybody and can't find them, or even a sign of them. Nobody's been around. So I think they're just mimicking words that they're picking out. Maybe they like the sound of it,
Mm-hmm.
or just
Yeah.
saying it. I don't, just to be saying it. I don't know.
Well, I mean, you've got the Sierra sounds where they're actually having an argument.
Yeah.
Yeah. That one arguing, he was mad.
Well, she was
That
mad.
sounded like, yeah. Sounded like the female was mad over there about the food being gone. See?
Yeah.
But then I heard it again when he was pushing the trailer, and I figured it was a young juvenile had reached down and grabbed a hold of the bumper and was just pushing it forward. Because he'd have caved that whole side of that thing in if he'd have pushed it like that. What do you think, Barry?
Yeah. That's just fiberglass. He had to push it in if it wasn't on metal.
Yeah.
Yeah, their strength is amazing.
Hold of
Yeah.
Real amazing.
Yeah. So that
I sure
trailer
didn't
weighs,
want to go face with him either.
that trailer weighs from
Wow, it's
16,
heavy.
18,000.
Really? I didn't realize it's that heavy. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, let me tell you what, he didn't have any trouble pushing it. Because, I mean, I was moving back forward. I'm going, what the heck? And I'm looking down. I'm thinking, what's going on? I didn't know if I was getting dizzy or what. I raised up and I'm still moving back and forth. And I put my feet on the ground to try to straighten up because I didn't know what was going on.
Yeah.
Then I heard them outside. That's when I went and woke Barry up. And when I went back, I heard the female just literally like that, real quick. Just like, stop it. And I would assume like a mom would say, stop it.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's just real short.
Yeah.
But I know those sounds because I've heard them. That's 3 times I've heard them vocalize them like that. So I recognized it and I thought, oh, he got scolded. He's not happy camper either.
He's in trouble now.
I sure did not want to look out the window and even be mad at me now because he got scolded.
I would not have looked out that window. There's no way I would have.
He probably reached in or yanked me out through the window.
Well, I've got one I can add to that about the window. One time in an old house, I went in to take a shower, and all of a sudden I hear a fingernail tap on my bathroom window.
Oh, Lord have mercy.
And I thought, did I hear what I just think I heard? And it did it again, except it double tapped. And I don't know why I said it. I just popped out and said, I'm sorry, I'm in the shower. And it didn't happen again. I don't know why I said it, but I'm standing 3 feet from this window and it can just, and so next day I went around to the bathroom window outside, and that window is like 6.5 feet to the bottom to even get to the window to start.
Wow.
And I looked up, and the screen on the window had fingernail drag marks down it. Yeah,
that
one
is
was
Hey, aren't you
that's
aren't you glad he wasn't laughing?
well, probably was.
Oh
Yeah,
no,
maybe
Yeah,
it was
saying
just a
that.
girl.
sorry, that's
Well,
not tonight, Barry. Oh, geez,
Maybe.
yeah,
man, oh man.
yeah, that one kind of shook me.
Well,
That
Barry,
was
do
too
you have a
close.
girlfriend? Do you have a girlfriend
Yep.
that's kind of hairy?
Nope, not a hairy one.
Oh well, you're not as lucky as I am, I guess.
Well, so here's the thing. Did you cast her footprint? Because that's how you get a hairy girlfriend. You have to cast a footprint.
Yeah,
Well,
that's how I got her. She comes around every time I go to that cabin.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I told him.
Yeah.
My number one mistake was you casted that footprint. It's like putting a ring on the finger.
Yep.
Sure glad y'all cleared that up because I was kind of getting worried there. You know, I ain't casting none. I sure don't want no hairy girlfriend.
No.
Hey,
Well, believe me, if I could get rid of her, I would. I don't know how she
Oh.
does it and how she knows, but every time I go down there, if I'm down there, she'll show up.
What do you mean you don't know? Smelling you.
Uh-huh.
you know what? I'm down there at the cabin with you down there, Chuck. I know what
Huh?
to do now. I was always worried about going and staying there. I know what to do now. We hear them outside, we just throw Chuck out.